With injury updates for a WWE and AEW star, this is Wrestling Hub. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report for July 22nd. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official and follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. As Jeff Jarrett is set to team with Jay Lethal to take on Andrade and Ric Flair on July 29th for StarCast, he took to his podcast to criticize the Nature Boy, saying, "I came to do a job. Do it every time I step up to the plate. Wasn't a lot of fun reading the research from Derek. He did a hell of a job on this. But we're gonna do this podcast, Conrad, but I can assure you, I'm gonna say some things today that you don't want to hear about your father-in-law, because everybody glosses over the real Ric Flair. Everybody glosses the Nature Boy. Everybody glosses over. If you want to go right for the jugular, let's go. He's an active alcoholic. If you want me to go there, I'll go there. Conrad, I tried to help your father-in-law up. I said literally, Jay, don't do this. I get why Jay's slighted. Look, if you really want to get right down to it, who's the one who took Jay Lethal out of New Jersey and said, Jay, you've got a spot in TNA? Guess who got him fired at TNA? Rick, Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff. These are partners. Flair came begging for a job in TNA because he had 18 wives, 3,000 payments to be made, and Uncle Sam was breathing down his throat. And he had a wonderful retirement match in Orlando in WrestleMania, and then all of a sudden he's going to come back and say, hey, I want a job. You want to talk about egomaniac? Hulk Hogan is debuting January of 2010, and then Rick's going to start the same night? How much sense does that make? Talking to Sportskeeda about Flair's upcoming retirement bout, Steve Austin gave his thoughts on how it will turn out. Well, it's going to be his final match, so I guess he's in the mood to have one more go and to prove he was the man. I've said before, I think he was the greatest traveling world champion that there ever was. There's a reason he had the belt as many times as he did, because he was that damn good. He lived the lifestyle on the road to the nth degree, let's say. For him to have his final match, I wish him nothing but the best. I hold him in the highest regard and have the highest respect for him. I'm behind everything he does in the ring. So I look forward to seeing it. I wish I could be there in person. Again, I'm not traveling anywhere right now, but I wish him all the best, and I know it's going to turn out great, and I can't wait to watch it. As many have been wondering if the Briscoes are going to make their presence felt in AEW, Tony Khan revealed during the ROH Death Before Dishonor media call the Briscoes are under contract to Ring of Honor, long-term contract. I think there are some other developmental wrestlers, but really the key, probably the biggest names that are exclusively signed to Ring of Honor are the Briscoes. They are some of the biggest names in Ring of Honor history. They're Hall of Famers. There are others, but I think that would be a great example of a key act. They haven't really appeared in AEW yet, but they are signed to Ring of Honor. Nikki Bella mentioned the trauma that came from this breakup. I think a lot of women get into this situation when it's like, I love this person, but I don't know if it's right for my life, and that's a hard thing. Sometimes we meet amazing people, but we're just meant to live a different life. I just got this feeling so deep in my gut of like, I need to walk away, and no one thought I would, but it was hitting me so hard. Even though it's painful and even traumatizing, I just knew it was right. During an appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live, The Rock reacted to his daughter recently making her in-ring debut for WWE as Ava Raine, saying, yes, very proud of her. Simone Johnson, my oldest daughter, the daughter I have with Danny Garcia, she made her debut in WWE, their smaller federation, NXT. So she did so good. She went out there on the microphone. You've got to be poised when you go out there. She has a cool wrestling name, it's Ava Raine. It comes from all different areas. Usually, it's probably a mix. What she wanted to do, what she wanted to be called. Ultimately, what the powers that be wanted to be called to as well. She's the first, fourth generation of pro wrestlers in WWE. I always like to say that name Ava Raine could mean a lot of things, but to me in my mind, it means she's going to lay the smackdown on some candy asses. For an interview with Comic Book, Cody Rhodes touched on his torn pec and how he was told to save the reveal for Hell in a Cell. No one saw it, other than I think Vince McMahon saw it. I was going to take my robe off for cameras, and the voice of God, whoever is head of production in that moment, I remember them saying, "Don't." Stu, the camera operator, told me we were going to save it for the show. Very few people had actually seen it and how bad it was. Through the day, it was getting worse because there was so much blood under my skin. I'm almost anemic, so if you chop me or squeeze me, you can see it instantly. Just the perfect person to have their body ripped in half for that moment. Rhodes also noted that he is not certain he will be able to make a quick turnaround. I want to say good, but it's misleading. It's not like ACLs or PCLs or anything where your life changes completely for a while. After 2 weeks, you feel like you're normal, but you're not. It's just tied to your bone on your arm, and you have to let it actually form. Speaking on the Battleground podcast about potentially adding more tag titles to their current collection, FTR Stacks Hardwood noted, "If the fans think and we think NWA and Impact would add to our legacy, yeah. You know, the money has to be right. We gotta get the okay from the boss. Right now, we're in a good place financially. Right now, we're in a good place mentally, kind of physically. So, everything that we're going to do from now on to the end of our careers is for our enjoyment and for our careers, and that's it. So yeah, if it will add to our legacy, absolutely." With former AEW NXT star Jake Atlas arrested for domestic assault on May 23rd, it was alleged that an altercation took place between himself and his boyfriend when they were out drinking. As the charges have been dropped, the wrestling star has taken to social media to issue a statement. "I want to thank those of you who will take the time to read this statement. I'm issuing a formal apology for my wrongdoing and any hurt, disappointment, and complications I may have caused to my colleagues and fans. As incredibly difficult it is for me to publicly disclose very personal and private information, it is imperative I admit to my alcohol abuse and provide transparency about my deteriorating mental health. I've accepted that my anxiety and depression led me to detrimentally self-medicate for the last 7 years. In addition, a lot of unresolved trauma resurfaced for me recently that was fundamental to the development of some extremely negative core beliefs, and I was inadequately able to manage. An incident occurred a couple of months ago that I'm 100% not proud of. I take complete responsibility and accountability for the situation of my actions. I recognize that the state of being intoxicated does not excuse my behavior. I made a terrible mistake, hurt people I love, and it's something I deeply regret. The only clarity I wish to provide specifically about what circulated online is this: the relationship is not abusive in any way, shape, or form, and this event certainly not a reflection of my character. One can read a report and choose to take the information for what it is, but to speculate, draw conclusions, and create a narrative that has no merit only adds further damage to those involved. This was a situation that was already being and continues to be dealt with privately, so it is with great humility that I ask the respect of that privacy going forward. I would like to share that I have successfully completed an intensive outpatient program at Live Well Behavioral Health in Florida. I self-admitted with a dual diagnosis in substance abuse and mental health. The treatment consisted of 10 hours of group and individualized therapy every week for 5 weeks. The next step in the program is to attend one group session a week for 3 weeks and continue individual outpatient therapy thereafter. My time there has been nothing short of extraordinary and life-changing, a phenomenal first step in my recovery. I am human, and that makes me flawed. I believe in second chances, I believe in redemption, and in turn, I believe in personal growth. Express my gratitude to those who have reached out to me. I've made exceptional progress, and I'm excited for my future. I have full faith for a positive outcome from this journey as I continue my sobriety in the process of healing with the support of my friends, my family, and my partner. Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I'm wise, so I'm changing myself. For the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer discussed Olympic gold medalist and WWE signee Gable Steveson potentially wanting to go after a third NCAA title or make another run for the Olympics. There is still nothing new on Gable Steveson. Last year they made a big deal of him being drafted to Raw, and at the time they were going to put him on Raw a few times during the year to keep his name out there with the idea of a debut around Mania time. They never had him in the ring, but did plug his Big Ten and NCAA title wins, and he shot an angle with Chad Gable at Mania. The idea was for him to become a regular on Raw after this past semester ended at Minnesota. but he hasn't been used, and he's talked about returning to college to go for a third NCAA title in 2023, and even pondered if that was the case, going for a second gold medal in 2024. He would be strongly favored to win the NCAA title after he dominated all season and won the Hodge Trophy this year. An Olympic gold medal, while he would be a favorite, is a much higher level and certainly far from a sure thing. If he was to win 3 NCAAs and 2 golds, there would be no argument that he was the greatest American heavyweight wrestler of all time. Most now would say Bruce Baumgartner, who won 1 NCAA title in 1982 and golds in the 1984 and 1992 Olympics. On the Inside podcast, former WWE star Mr. Kennedy would note that he's been training with Gable. I have a couple of students right now that have WWE tryouts. One guy that is signed to WWE. That's Gable Steveson, who's been training with us. He's local. He lives in the Twin Cities and he's been signed now to Raw for a year, and they really haven't done much with him. So he just wanted to try it. He reached out and said, hey, can I come in and just hit the ropes and stuff? So we've been doing a couple times a week with him, and I've got some of my best students working with him. While it's been noted that Ronda Rousey pushed to lose her title to Liv Morgan, the Observer has noted how Sasha Banks and Naomi walking out on the company played a role in this as well. Part of the reason, if not the key reason for the recent push of Morgan, was the walking out of Banks and Naomi. When they left, the idea was that SmackDown needed a new top-tier woman babyface, and Morgan was the one who got the pick of the draw. It's also worked out because the fan base was ready for her. When Sami Zayn confronted Theory during SmackDown, he could be seen in a sling, as the Observer has noted that his injury is legitimate, yet it is not major, with him only expected to not be able to wrestle for a few weeks. Speaking of injuries, AEW star Santana was confirmed to be out of action and recently underwent surgery. As Meltzer reported, Santana needed reconstructive knee surgery and looks to be out about 8 months. Even though he and Ortiz had a personal falling out, this is going to be tough for Ortiz, who is going to have a tough time not being lost in the shuffle. With Triple H back working for WWE in his position as Executive Vice President of Talent Relations, taking back this position from Bruce Prichard, who is going back to his previous role in creative. Of course, the Talent Relations department had been headed by John Laurinaitis, with him departing from the company after being named in the investigation into sexual misconduct allegations against Vince McMahon. Fightful is further reporting that Laurinaitis is effectively gone, with some of the company's top talent apparently calling him a snake, and Triple H is expected to adapt to the company's hiring practices with the Next in Line program. Laurinaitis' WWE phone number, which he's had for decades, has been disconnected. And in some breaking news, the former chairman and CEO of WWE, Vince McMahon, in the midst of the previously mentioned investigation, has decided to retire, as he took to Twitter to write, "At 77, time for me to retire. Thank you, WWE Universe. Then, now, forever, together." And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.